After 20 years, Billionaire discovers his school friend as a waitress. What happens next is life-changing. Jake stepped into the bustling diner, the familiar scent of coffee and bacon washing over him like a long-lost memory. He couldn't help but smile at the chaotic charm of the place, filled with laughter and the clinking of plates, a stark contrast to his sprawling penthouse with panoramic views of Chicago's skyline. And then he saw her. Sarah, his high school friend, now a waitress, her face lined with the stories of survival. For a heartbeat, time froze. It hit him, despite the wealth he'd accumulated, he'd never forgotten his roots. Jake. Is that really you? Sarah's eyes sparkled with surprise as she wiped her hands on her apron. They weren't just two old friends, they were a remnant of the past that had shaped their lives. They exchanged pleasantries, the warm banter flowing like honey over warm pancakes. Yet, beneath the sweetness, there was an undeniable heaviness in the air. "I've missed this us," he exclaimed, his voice betraying emotions he hadn't let surface before. As they reminisced about high school dreams and naive ambitions, Jake's heart ached at the reality of their diverging paths. Where he built a fortune from sheer grit, Sarah was tethered to a life of daily struggles, raising her younger sister after their parents had passed. The diner was alive, filled with characters from the neighborhood, each with their own slice of life. Veterans swapped tales, families laughed over brunch, yet Jake felt a chasm forming. He was an outsider looking in. As they shared coffee, laughter erupted over a shared story about their high school band, but the laughter was plastered over the tension of unspoken fears looming between them. "I heard you've got that big company now," Sarah said, laughter fading into uncertainty. "Must be nice to have it easy." The edge of her voice felt like a knife, and he recoiled internally. She was right. Life had dealt her a harsh hand, one he couldn't fully comprehend. Presenting his fortune weighed heavily on him. Should he offer her help? A well-paying job? The thought danced in his mind, then turned cold. Before he could say a word, Sarah leaned closer. "I'm doing my best, Jake. I don't need charity." Her fiery rejection stung. It was a blow that shattered the thin glass that held their friendship together. For a moment, silence enveloped them. Her pride was palpable, and he couldn't ask her to sacrifice that for his own guilt. "I only want to help by handing me a handout. You don't understand." Her voice cut through him raw and angry, yet filled with a vulnerability he recognized. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue. As the tables around them cleared, Jake felt panic rising. The more they talked, the darker the shadows of their realities became. The air crackled with resentment, ambition, and the weight of choices they had made. What had he built if it meant separating from his best friend? With Sarah's dignity at stake and the diner feeling more like a cage than a comfort, Jake realized this one decision could redefine everything. Should he lift her up without crushing her spirit? As he stood on this precipice of guilt and hope, he hesitated, knowing their next encounter could change the course of their lives forever. The sunlight streaming through the diner's windows cast a warm glow, but to Jake, it felt as though shadows were creeping in. Every bite of food lost its flavor. He glanced around at the bustling scene, seeing families share joyful moments that felt out of reach for him. Could he really stand by and watch Sarah struggle when he held the keys to a better life? The weight of that thought was suffocating. "I just wanted to reconnect," he said softly, the hurt in his voice betraying the anxiety flooding his chest. "I'm sorry if I came off the wrong way. I never meant to offend you." Sarah crossed her arms, her eyes darting away. "Jake, it's not just about you. I've made my choices and they haven't been easy." Sometimes, it feels like no one understands. Her words hit him hard, reminding him that the privilege of his life had veiled the struggles of so many. He felt the sharp sting of her reality slicing through the veneer of his world. Still, the desire to reach out lingered. But we can help each other. I know you've been through so much. You don't have to do this alone, she laughed, but it was hollow, echoing with bitterness. Help, or what? The pity of a millionaire? That's not what I need. Jake winced. He offered her a glimpse of the security he had built, but he could feel the wall rising higher. Somehow, he needed to break through, yet every moment felt like trips over eggshells. What if I didn't offer you a job, but a partnership? Her eyebrows lifted, curiosity cutting through the tension. What do you mean? I've been thinking about starting a charity, something that gives back to our community, places like this diner. You know more about what's needed than I ever could. His heart raced at the chance to merge their paths. You could help me with this. You understand the struggle, Sarah. I can supply the resources, and together, we can make a difference. The anger in her expression melted slightly, revealing something softer. You really think I'd be of any use? I know you would, he urged, leaning in closer, his tone earnest. You have the heart and the strength. You could connect with people, guide them like you've always guided your sister. Her eyes shimmered with a mix of hope and pain. A heartbeat passed, suspended between them as she weighed his words. It's not that simple. What if I can't take the leap? I've failed before. Everyone fails, Sarah. That's part of growing. Look at me, I had failures too. But I learned from them. His voice wavered, filled with emotion. What holds you back? Fear? Pride? You're stronger than you think. The silence was thick. She was searching his gaze, and he saw turbulence there, fear battling against the shimmer of hope. He reached out for her hand, and for a moment, she hesitated before allowing the connection. Okay, let us talk, she whispered, her voice quieter than before but edged with determination. As they began to discuss possibilities, Jake felt the weight of the world lift just slightly. Maybe they could forge a new path together. Yet, within him, doubt lingered, wondering if their friendship could truly survive the frictions of ambition and pride. Could they navigate this delicate landscape without losing each other again? Just then, a loud crash from the kitchen broke their moment, and the conversation halted. Both turned their heads toward the noise, their hearts racing again. Is everything all right back there? Sarah called, her protective instinct kicking in. As they listened, the sounds of commotion grew louder, stirring curiosity and worry. Jake felt the tension crawling back. What could possibly disrupt their fragile truce now? With a sense of urgency mounting, Jake turned back to Sarah, a question burning bright in his mind. What if this is just the start of everything falling apart? What if we can't control it? And as the diner's chaos unfolded just behind the counter, Jake couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning of greater challenges ahead. The commotion in the kitchen escalated. Plates clattered, voices raised, and a thud resonated through the air, making Sarah leap from her seat. I should check on them, she said, her tone laced with urgency. Jake followed her, his instinct to protect tugging at him as they dashed through the swinging door. The kitchen was a whirlwind of movement. A cook stood panicking, his face smeared with flour, while another worker tried to gather the chaos. A stack of plates had collapsed on the floor. What happened? Sarah questioned, her voice steadying the frantic energy around them. Just a mishap, nothing serious, the cook replied, but his shaky hands betrayed him as he pointed at the overturned trash bin. I was trying to grab the oil, and everything just slipped. Jake watched the team scramble, their camaraderie evident even in this stressful moment. It reminded him of a time he nearly forgot the late-night study sessions, the shared goals, and the laughter that bound them together despite the challenges. As Sarah stepped in to help, issuing orders and reassurances, Jake felt that familiar admiration swell in his chest. She effortlessly commanded respect. It struck him that her struggle wasn't just about surviving, it was about leading, lifting others as they all navigated their storms. Her determination reignited something deep within him. Here was a woman too strong to be defined by her hardships. In this moment, he could see her clearly, a force of nature. Sarah, he started, wanting to express everything he had bottled up, but she cut him off. Jake, not now. We've got to clean this up. Can you help? Of course, he replied, a burst of clarity hitting him. It didn't matter how rich he was, what mattered was being present. He grabbed a broom, and soon they were both working quickly, sweeping up the mess. As they cleaned, the room began to feel lighter, the earlier tension fading into something more manageable. Laughter erupted from a nearby table, reminding both of them of the life just outside this chaos. See? Jake ventured, slightly out of breath but energized. Even in a mess, there's still joy. Sarah paused, looking up from a broken plate, surprise etched across her face. You really think so? I know so, he affirmed, his gaze locking onto hers. Life gets messy, but that doesn't mean we can't find our way through it. A smile broke through her serious facade, lighting up the space between them. Just as quickly, it vanished, replaced by a flicker of doubt. But what if the mess is too big to clean up? What if I fail again? Jake felt that pang of vulnerability swell again, echoing in both their hearts. Failure is just part of it, but I'd rather fail than not try at all. You've inspired me, Sarah. Since you came back into my life, I've felt changed. The laughter from the diner seeped into the kitchen, weaving with their conversation, making the chaos feel softer. Look at how we've come together to fix this, he said softly. If we can handle this, we can tackle anything. The light in her eyes flickered back, and for a heartbeat, hope ignited between them. Yet in the background, the noise of the diner continued, indifferent to their struggles, echoing the larger challenges that awaited. Just then, the door swung open, and a group of locals stepped inside, filling the diner with their usual energy and laughter. Jake exchanged glances with Sarah, both of them feeling the shift in atmosphere. Jake, she said, her voice laced with a tremor of excitement mixed with apprehension. What if they recognize you? What if this all turns chaotic again? His heart thudded. People from his past, coming face to face with the man who once walked these streets, now the stranger among them. And as the laughter grew louder, Jake realized their fragile truth still hung in the balance, ready to unravel or strengthen beneath the weight of revelations yet to come. Are we ready for this? He asked her, uncertainty creeping back in. The moment of truth loomed thick in the air. What awaited them on the other side of the door? Jake took a deep breath, the air thick with anticipation and fears that tangled in his chest. The door swung wider, pulling him into a world awash with joviality. Locals greeted one another with eased laughter, their voices like a warm blanket wrapped around the diner. It was a stark contrast to the chaotic silence in the kitchen. Let's just play it cool, Jake suggested, although his heart raced at the thought of being recognized. The last thing he needed was to feel the weight of judgment from those who knew him from the past. Right, Sarah said, her expression a blend of determination and worry. Just be yourself. It'll be fine. As they moved towards the dining area, the warmth from the cookstoves mingled with the unmistakable aroma of bacon, biscuits, and brewing coffee. It tugged at Jake's memory, reminding him of simpler times, family breakfasts filled with laughter at their crowded kitchen table. Hey, Jake. A familiar voice carved through the sound of utensils clinking and chatter. It was Mike, a baritone laugh that used to echo during lunchtime banter at school. The wiry man stood at a table, full of energy, a plate of pancakes piled high before him. Jake's heart stuttered. Hey, Mike, long time no see. Too long, man. What brings you back? The excitement was infectious, but Jake couldn't help the surge of apprehension. Just passing through, he said lightly, trying to deflect. What passing through? You disappeared into thin air, bro. We haven't seen you in forever. Mike's excitement caught the attention of another diner, who squinted at Jake. A woman, Kayla, if he recalled correctly, broke away from the booth she was in and approached, eyes wide, mouth slightly agape. "Jake Turner, is that you?" she asked, disbelief and curiosity melding in her tone. Inside, the walls of Jake's carefully constructed life began to teeter, balance lost at the slightest poke. He caught Sarah's glance, her concern touching every nerve raw within him. "Yeah, it's me," he said, forcing a casual tone that felt all but real. "How's everything?" Kayla's expression morphed from surprise to delight as she stepped forward, giving him a quick, tight hug. "I can't believe it. You look great." "Thanks, you too." He felt a surge of warmth, but it was interspersed with unease. The memories of their old days enveloped him like a fog, bittersweet and fleeting. As he struggled to keep the conversation light, Jake noticed several people start to gather, each bearing expressions that were painted with curiosity and nostalgia. He could hear snippets of conversation echoing around him, like threads weaving his past life back into reality, a history he had tried hard to forsake. "And how about Sarah? You two are back together?" one of them asked, prompting Jake to turn toward Sarah. She seemed lost in thought, her smile fading as the attention shifted toward her. The observation felt immediate, as if the weight of their unspoken choices lay bare before this crowd. Jake instinctively stepped closer, the distance yielding to an urgent need to protect. Not exactly," Jake replied, attempting to shift the dynamics. "We're just friends," Sarah interjected. Her voice was firm, though Jake could see a flicker of uncertainty in her eyes. She scanned those around them, hoping, perhaps, that they wouldn't pry further, but as Jake watched the crowd inch closer, curiosity percolating through the air, he recognized that they couldn't escape the truth for long. Sarah looked up at him, and in her gaze, he saw the mirrored tension that coursed through his veins, and there it was, the moment when their uncertain little bubble collided with the energy of old friendships and familiar faces. "Why don't you two sit with us?" Kayla suggested enthusiastically, and Jake saw the opportunity to steer the narrative away from the pressing doubts. "Maybe just for a bit," he replied, his heart hammering. As they settled around the table, the noise of the diner swelled, merging their past and present, pulling them deeper into a web of memories and unasked questions. What story would Jake reveal, and how would Sarah fit into it? But just then, among the laughter and recollections, a voice rose above the din one that sent a shock through Jake. "Is that really you, Jake? The Jake Turner who left us behind?" All eyes turned toward the entrance, where an imposing figure stood, silhouetted against the light. An enigmatic grin spread across his face, eyes piercing and familiar. Jake's breath caught. The past had indeed come knocking, and this time, it seemed determined to settle the score. Jake's heart stumbled over itself as he recognized the figure at the door. It was Marcus, his former best friend from high school, now somehow more commanding and charismatic. The years had sculpted him into an imposing presence. Jake couldn't help but feel a wave of nostalgia mixed with regret. "Marcus," Jake managed to say, his voice barely above a whisper. Memories rushed back, shared dreams, laughter, arguments over little things that felt significant in their teenage minds. They'd had a falling out that spiraled into an estrangement neither had addressed. How had it come to this? Marcus stepped inside, shrugging off a leather jacket that seemed almost too heavy for the vibrant energy around it. "Didn't think I'd ever see you back here. Thought this place was all behind you," Marcus said, his tone playful, but the glint in his eyes was anything but. He moved toward Jake, and the crowd around them seemed to hold its collective breath. Jake felt the weight of the moment. Would Marcus call him out for disappearing? Would he bring up the past that Jake had spent years trying to forget? As Marcus approached, Jake could see the curiosity linger in everyone's demeanor, like they were waiting for the sequel to a long-cancelled series. "I was just passing through," Jake said, trying for nonchalance. He glanced at Sarah, looking for a lifeline, her eyes darting between the two men. "Pass, you say?" "Last time I checked, you went radio silent," Marcus replied, a smirk playing on his lips. "Didn't he even get a call when you left?" "No, goodbye, nothing. Yeah, well, Jake trailed off, the spark of an excuse quickly fading. What could he possibly say that would make things right after all this time? Can't blame you, I suppose, Marcus went on. Got bigger fish to fry now, right? I mean, you are a big shot now, aren't you? People don't just vanish without a reason. Jake felt heat rise to his cheeks, a cocktail of shame and anger bubbling within. I'm just trying to figure things out, he replied, trying to keep his voice steady. Marcus's smile softened for a moment, making Jake consider that maybe there was still room for understanding. We all have our own mess, don't we? Some just wear theirs, others shove it down and hope it's forgotten. An uncomfortable silence slipped over them, a palpable tension that made Jake's stomach churn. He could feel Sarah's eyes on him, urging him silently to take the conversation back in another direction. Did you come with friends? Kayla broke the silence, piecing the interactions together with her genuine curiosity. Just me, Marcus said, his gaze shifting. Thought I'd visit after hearing the diner reopened. Must be picked a hell of a weekend. Men, right? Mike chimed in, trying to ease the mood. Even if they made millions, they can't resist a good pancake. The laughter was a brief reprieve, but it took only a moment for the reality of the situation to reassert itself. Marcus was still watching Jake closely, as if searching the depths of his eyes for a candid reveal. Listen, Jake, Marcus finally said, lowering his voice, I know things weren't great between us before you left, and I get it, but we grew up together. We can't just act like it didn't happen. Jake's heart ached with the weight of history. Could he even explain it all, the reasons for his departure, the unbearable pressure, the transformations that pushed him away? Before he could respond, Sarah gently squeezed his hand. It felt like encouragement, a reminder that she was there, and suddenly, the past didn't feel so heavy. Why don't we all sit down and catch up? Sarah suggested, breaking the tension. It's hard to talk when there's so much noise. Marcus raised an eyebrow, glancing at the gathering crowd. Sure, we have a lot of catching up to do. As they made their way to the booth, Jake couldn't shake off the feeling that this was the universe colliding, physics and fate, emotions ready to spill over. The past had a funny way of re-entering your life and reminding you of things you thought you'd left behind. And when they were seated, the questions began piling up, as heavy as bricks on his chest, each one begging for answers. Just then, Marcus leaned in closer, his voice a gravelly whisper, what happened to us, Jake? Jake's heart drummed in his ears. Could he really answer that? Would it change everything? There was so much at stake, but as the diner swirled around them in laughter, Jake knew he was on the precipice of something monumental, something that would unravel both the past and the future. Would he dare to leap? Jake looked into Marcus's eyes, searching for an anchor in a storm of emotions. The weight of those 4 words hung in the air, as heavy as thunder. What had happened? That question clawed at him, stirring a tempest of memories he had tried to bury. The friendship that once felt invincible had cracked under pressures they hadn't been able to see coming. Things got complicated, Jake finally managed to utter, his heart racing. We both changed. I lost touch. I didn't know how to stay. Marcus nodded, but there was a flicker of disappointment in his gaze, as if a part of him had hoped for a bolder confession. You just disappeared, Jake. I mean, we had dreams together. Shouldn't that have counted for something? Dreams evolve, Jake replied, voice trembling. He could feel Sarah's reassuring squeeze as if she was willing him to stay grounded. But he was spiraling, caught in a tumble of uncertainty. Jake, Marcus said softly, I get it. We all deal in our own ways. But you left me in the dark. I had to figure it all out alone. A silence settled among them, thick and suffocating. Jake's thoughts raced, craving a way to explain the shadows that had loomed over him. The late nights spent alone trying to outrun expectations, the crushing need to succeed in a world that seemed to spin faster than he could keep up. Hey, we've all been on our own journeys, Sarah interjected, sensing the weight of Jake's emotions. The important part is that we're here now. Marcus looked at her, then back at Jake. So, what now? Do we just pretend that nothing happened? That time hasn't he changed us? I don't want to pretend, Jake said, squaring his shoulders. I want to understand what happened, to us. As he spoke, Jake felt a surge of strength. He was tired of running. Maybe this was an opportunity, a chance to rebuild what had been lost. Let us start fresh, Jake suggested, his voice steadying with purpose. I want us to talk. No barriers, no regrets. Taking a deep breath, he continued, I'm sorry for leaving the way I did. No calls, no goodbyes. It was selfish. Marcus's expression shifted, revealing the vulnerabilities hidden under the bravado. I just didn't expect to feel abandoned. That stung, man. I get it, Jake replied. And I'm sorry. Just then, Kayla chimed in, this is a good start. Let us order something and get to know each other again. The atmosphere shifted slightly, the heaviness unfurling like a flower welcoming the morning sun. Jake's stomach churned with mixed feelings, but there was a glimmer of hope. All right, Jake said with a tentative smile. Let us do this. As they placed their orders, laughter bubbled up around them. There was warmth in the air, a stark contrast to the tension only moments ago. But as Jake settled in, the uneasy sensation returned. How far could they really go? Could this moment truly bridge 2 decades of separation? By the way, Marcus said, his tone lightening, you still owe me for that time you stole my lunch in the cafeteria. That turkey sandwich wasn't he going to eat itself? Jake chuckled, the memories flooding back. You were relentless about that. But beneath the laughter, shadows loomed. Unresolved questions hovered, begging for answers. What had Marcus built in those years? What had Jake become? As the time wore on, they navigated old stories and familiar paths, but Jake knew they hadn't yet scratched the surface. The deeper issues awaited, and somewhere in the periphery of their laughter, Jake felt a stirring. An undeniable force that whispered secrets of their past and laid traps for their future. Would the answers he was longing for be as healing as he hoped, or would they open wounds best left untouched? As the diner bustled around them, Jake's heart thrummed with anticipation and dread. What would be revealed when they truly looked into each other's lives? Would they weave a new path together, or would the past prove too heavy to carry? The air was thick with unspoken memories, and Jake knew they were just beginning to unravel a story far greater than the one they had left behind. The waitress arrived with their drinks, breaking the tension like glass shattering on tile. Jake took a big sip of his iced tea, the sweetness catching him off guard. It was refreshing, but it did little to cool the fire brewing within him. His thoughts raced, swirling like the ice cubes in his glass. Where do we even begin? Sarah asked, trying to gently steer the conversation back on course. Back then, I guess. High school. Marcus suggested, a hint of nostalgia creeping into his voice. It feels so trivial compared to what we're facing now, Jake replied, fidgeting with the edge of the table. Trivial? Marcus raised an eyebrow. Those were the days, man. We were kids with big dreams, remember? Before life buzzed in with its realities. Jake could see it in Marcus's eyes, those same dreams flickered beneath the surface, even after all the years. But Jake wondered how many of those dreams had been dashed, how many had transformed into something cynical and harsh. We had it all figured out once, Marcus continued, tapping the table lightly, almost like a tempo to a forgotten song. You, me, Sam changing the world, figuring out how to get through college. Sam. A wave of heat swept through Jake. The name alone stirred memories, both sweet and bitter. They had been inseparable, a trio ready to face whatever came their way. That triangle had fallen apart so suddenly, it felt like a car accident he still hadn't fully processed. Yeah, whatever happened to him? Sarah asked innocently, cutting through Jake's reverie. The question hung in the air, thick and uncomfortable. Sam, well, he's in New York now. Before the world changed him, he was a bright spark. Last I heard, he was working in finance, very corporate, Marcus explained, the disappointment cutting through his tone. Things didn't go as we thought. Not for any of us, Jake muttered under his breath. The laughter they had shared earlier felt like a distant memory, easily taken away by this sudden heaviness. Jake's heart ached and guilt seeped into his bones. Maybe we should reach out to him, he suggested, though the words felt hollow. Maybe, Marcus said, but the doubt in his voice lingered. They shared a long silence, a moment filled with unspoken questions and uncertainties. Look, it's clear we're all different, Jake said, his voice taking on a more serious tone. But we can either keep living in the past or use it to guide us forward. I still want to be a part of each other's lives. Marcus exchanged a glance with Sarah, the tension easing just a fraction. This isn't going to be easy, you know. And we still have a lot to untangle. I know, Jake said, locking eyes with Marcus. But I promise I won't disappear again. Let us not allow the years to divide us even more. This feels like a reunion and a wake at the same time, Marcus joked lightly, but the underlying sadness remained. Suddenly, the diner was bustling more than before. A table across the room erupted with laughter, while another group debated loudly about sports. Jake's gaze flitted past Marcus to the world outside, the cars driving by, strangers carrying on with their lives. Can we talk about what was so hard? Jake proposed gently. What was it that broke us apart? Taking a deep breath, Marcus nodded slowly. Yeah, we need to face that. It won't be pretty, but we need to understand what went wrong. The conversation felt like standing at the edge of a cliff, both daring and dangerous. But Jake felt lighter, as if the act of facing the past could lead to something brighter. Suddenly, a knock at the window shattered the moment. Jake swiveled, heart racing when he saw an unexpected figure standing there, an old friend he'd thought he'd never see again, their face illuminated by the glimmering neon lights of the diner sign. Is that? Sarah started, her eyes widening in disbelief. Jake felt a jolt of disbelief shoot through him. What did this person want? And how would their presence rewrite the unfolding story? As he struggled to comprehend the weight of this surprise, Jake felt his heart beat faster, a rush of emotions crashing through him. Like waves breaking against the shore. Would this surprise be a reunion or a disruption, an answer or a question? The door swung open, and in stepped a storm he never expected. What would the arrival of his old friend bring? The figure stepped through the door, a familiar face from the past that ignited a whirlwind of memories. It was Maya, the girl who had captured Jake's heart years ago but faded into the backdrop of their shared history. Her once vibrant energy was still palpable, now mixed with something more profound, a maturity he didn't remember seeing before. Maya? He said, catching her gaze. The way he said her name made it feel like a lost melody, one he'd long forgotten but instantly recognized. Jake! She exclaimed, a bright smile lighting her face. She walked over, her steps confident yet cautious. As she approached, the air in the diner shifted, heavy with nostalgia. Marcus and Sarah were now mere silhouettes in the background, their reunion dwarfed by the surprise of this unexpected visit. Wow, it's been how long? Jake asked, his voice thick with emotion. About 20 years, she replied, her eyes sparkling with delight. I can't believe it's really you. Last I heard, you were off chasing dreams. And you? Still painting those murals around the city? He asked, trying to keep the conversation light. Only in my dreams, she chuckled softly, her expression shifting as if the words carried weight. I'm here, working as a waitress, turns out, real life isn't such a canvas after all. Jake felt a pang of regret. Maya had always been so ambitious, so full of life. To see her here, blending into the community as a waitress, sparked questions he didn't yet know how to voice. How's your family? He ventured, hoping to find a silver lining. Complicated. But I manage, she replied, a shadow just crossing her face, revealing a vulnerability hidden beneath her cheerful demeanor. Silence settled in, like a gentle snowfall. Jake could sense that she had stories, rich, layered stories waiting to be shared, just beneath the surface. Memories of laughter, late-night talks, and dreams woven together tangled within him like string lights torn from a tree. There was so much to unpack, and the din of the diner grew quieter, the laughter from other tables fading into his periphery, that he noticed Sarah nudging Marcus, both of them observing with curiosity. Their faces mirrored echoing emotions, grappling with the reality that an old friend was back in the picture, a friend that had been a crucial part of their triangle. "So, are you guys, together now?" Maya asked, feigning casualness but clearly intrigued. "No," Jake said, a little too quickly, causing her eyebrows to rise. "Just reconnecting, I guess." Maya smiled, her expression softening as she flitted her gaze between the three of them. "Reconnecting has its merits." "Yeah, we were just talking about." Jake stumbled, unsure how to bridge the cavern of time that had split them apart. "About how we lost touch. Life can have a way of pulling people apart," Maya nodded, her voice turning somber. "Sometimes, it feels like there's an invisible wall." "You're telling me," Marcus chimed in, breaking the tension. "It's like we were supposed to be inseparable, and look where we are now." "Everyone's just so busy being grown-ups," Sarah added softly, her eyes boring into the duo of old friends. Jake leaned forward, taking a moment to observe Maya closely. "You're right, and maybe we need to figure out how to break down those walls together." The earnestness of the moment hung in the air, thick and electric. An understanding passed between them, a silent promise to delve into the chasms life had carved out. "What about dinner? Let's not let this moment slip away," Jake suggested, breaking the silence. Maya's smile widened, revealing a warmth that felt familiar. "Dinner sounds great." As they made plans, Jake realized a spark had been reignited. But underneath the surface, layers of tension simmered, a past that begged to be unpacked, relationships that needed mending. His mind raced as he considered all the unspoken truths. Would this shared meal lead to answers, or would it reveal even more questions? And what did their reunion say about the lives they had built apart? The diner buzzed back to life, but Jake felt transported, suspended between the past and the future. Would they dare to unravel the tangled threads of their shared memories, or would they find it easier to keep covering them up? As their laughter bubbled back into existence, shadows hung, and Jake wondered if seeking resolution meant risking everything he had now. Would they find solace in their shared struggle or become even more lost along the way? Jake's heart raced as the conversation shifted between them, trying to breathe life into a connection lost to time. As they made plans for dinner, he subtly watched Maya, her expressions lighting up with possibility, and yet there was an undercurrent of something unspoken. "Why don't we go to that place we used to love?" Jake suggested, a flood of memories igniting vibrance in his voice. "Remember that little Italian spot on 5th? Maya's eyes lit up, nostalgia swirling in her gaze. "Vino S. Wow, I haven't thought about that place in forever. We used to go there all the time." "Yeah, every Friday night." "You were obsessed with the tiramisu," Jake laughed, thinking back to how she'd always try to sneak a bite of his pasta. "Hey, don't pretend you didn't love it too," she shot back, her smile playful, yet the warmth of her laughter felt like it was pulling Jake back into an embrace he never wanted to leave. As they made plans, he considered what her life must have been like over the last 20 years, the hardships, the dreams unrealized. For him, life had taken a more predictable route, settling into the grind of work and routine, always chasing after the next big thing. But Maya, with her artistic spirit, deserved far more than what that diner could represent. "What about your art?" he asked, his voice low, sensing the fragility that lay behind her bright demeanor. "I mean, how did that end up in the background?" At the question, her smile faltered, as if a shadow flickered across her face. "Life has a way of making us set aside the things we love, doesn't it?" she said, her tone bittersweet, revealing a depth he hadn't anticipated. Jake felt as if she tossed a stone into a serene pond, the ripples stirring up feelings he deemed long buried. Sometimes, we need to find our way back, right? His words were meant to empower. Driven by a flicker of hope that this moment might lead her back to her canvas. True. Maya paused, her brow furrowing in thought. But what if I'm not that girl anymore? What if the colors have faded? I don't believe that, he countered, his gaze steady. You're still the artist I knew. The kind of person who could create beauty out of chaos. It was a risk to throw that compliment out there. He could sense the possibility of yearning in her eyes, mixed with fear. But there was something cathartic about stepping into the vulnerable space together. Okay, she finally relented, a flicker of determination breaking through her apprehension. I'll give it a shot. My art deserves a second chance. From behind them, Marcus and Sarah exchanged glances, feeling the emotional weight of the exchange. It was evident there were unresolved feelings floating around, as whispers of support filtered through the diner. The waiter approached their table with a friendly smile, taking drink orders, and the tension eased a bit as they sipped their sodas. The laughter returned in waves, but beneath it all, Jake worried. What if dinner didn't go as planned? What if old wounds opened and festered instead of healing? When they finished their drinks, Jake suggested, let's get going. I don't want to waste another second. Maya nodded, her eyes gleaming with a new light as they stood to leave. The diner door swung open, releasing the sweet, warm air of nostalgia that accompanied them. As they walked along the sidewalk, side by side, Jake felt a surge of anticipation mixed with apprehension. This wasn't just dinner, it felt like the first brushstrokes on a brand new canvas, raw and uncharted. Would rekindling their connection lead to a masterpiece or a mess? Jake took a breath, letting the uncertainty hang as they rounded the corner. He looked at Maya, searching her face, the longing, the hope, all wrapped up in what they might discover together. His thoughts raced ahead, what awaited them when vows of friendship tangled once more with the possibility of something deeper, and as they continued to walk, a sense of urgency blossomed inside Jake, leaving him wondering, what truths would they unearth together when the night unfolded? With every step, Jake felt the weight of the past drifting away, replaced by a sense of rejuvenation. The sidewalks felt different beneath his feet, the sounds of the city blending into a symphony that echoed hope. Beside him, Maya radiated a sense of purpose, her gaze scanning the horizon as if searching for a sign, a hidden mural that the world had yet to see. As they reached Vino's, the familiar sense welcomed them like an old friend. Memories of laughter and shared meals flooded his mind, and he could almost hear echoes of their joyful banter from years ago. The warm light through the restaurant's windows felt inviting, and they stepped inside, greeted by the cozy ambience filled with the chatter of patrons. They were soon seated in a corner booth, where candles flickered softly between them. Jake glanced at Maya, her expression blending nostalgia with determination, a balance he found incredibly beautiful. So, what is the first thing you want to create again? He asked, hoping to lift the weight of expectation around her. Maya paused, contemplating his question carefully. I think I want to paint a mural. Something that brings the community together, reminds people of their roots like this diner does. Her eyes sparkled with conviction, and for a moment, the chaos of their pasts felt distant. She was alive with possibilities once again. That sounds perfect, Jake said, his voice sincere. You have a way of connecting people. You did it in high school. The glimmer in her gaze made his chest tighten with something like admiration. She was not just a distant memory but a living presence that he needed in his life. The waiter approached, smiling as they ordered their favorite dishes. There was laughter in the air, a shared bond reigniting between them. Sarah and Marcus had found a rhythm too, exchanging glances that spoke volumes. It felt like the past wasn't just a weight, it was a shared experience that could cultivate growth. As the meal arrived, they dug into their food, the bites taking them back to that shared history, yet propelling them forward. You know, Jake began, wiping a bit of sauce from the corner of his mouth, I've been thinking about that charity idea I mentioned. I want to actually make it happen. Maybe even get Sarah involved. Maya smiled knowingly. That sounds like a great way to honor your roots. Her enthusiasm ignited something within him, a reason to fuel that initial thought. Could this be the bridge that connected their past, present, and future? As they continued to eat, laughter broke through the deep conversations, the camaraderie growing like a warm fire crackling in winter. But amidst the joy, Jake couldn't ignore the shadows that lingered. The unfinished discussions about regrets, time lost, and friendships fractured still danced around the table, yearning for acknowledgement. "Jake," Marcus began, breaking the rhythm of their light-hearted banter, "can we talk about what happened back then? I still think we need closure." His voice was steady, the seriousness hanging like a curtain before them. Jake's heart raced. He could feel the past bristle at the edges, yet he faced it. "Yeah, I think we owe each other that much." He leaned forward, exposing the turbulence of his emotions. "I left because I struggled with so much. Expectations, pressure, all of it overwhelmed me. I thought distancing myself would help, but it only made it worse." "I always wondered why you just disappeared," Marcus admitted. "I thought we were supposed to have each other's backs. Losing that connection hurt." Silence encapsulated them, thick and heavy with regret. Sitting beside Maya, her gentle encouragement seeped into him. "You know you weren't alone, right?" she whispered, echoing belief. "We all faced our own battles. Life doesn't have to be a solo journey." "You're right," Jake said, taking a breath. "And that's why I'm back. I want to fight for the bonds we once held." With that, Marcus nodded solemnly. "Let us rebuild. Together." The moment bore witness to something sacred, a collective understanding of their experiences intertwining to form a tapestry full of colors. But as they shared those truths, it stirred the urgency of their pasts, and so many now stood on the periphery of deeper conversations, over dessert, an assortment of tiramisu, rich chocolate cake, and slices of their favorite cheesecakes. The air was electric with new possibilities. The laughter echoed with more brilliance than before. Yet Jake felt the need to take it a step further. "I've realized that I've lost sight of what matters. It's not about the money or the status, it's about connections, about people who believed in me, who shared the dreams. That includes all of you." He looked around the table, each of their faces reflecting hope and warmth. "Let us not waste more time. Let us make plans and allow ourselves to heal." Maya reached out, laying her hand on top of his. "Together," she affirmed, the quiet promise in her voice striking chords deep within him. As they left the restaurant, Jake felt something profound blossom within, a renewed commitment not just to restore old friendships, but to create something greater. The world felt expansive, alive with potential that they could choose to embrace. Under the city lights, they stepped forward, ready to weave a new future together, one that embraced the past yet stepped boldly into tomorrow. Jake looked at Maya and then back to Sarah and Marcus, tears of joy pricking his eyes. They fought through silence, hurt, and time lost, but tonight, they were forging a brighter path ahead. He took a breath filled with possibility, and they all walked on together, the night open and limitless before them. Now is the moment to show your support. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, and comment your reactions and feelings about this ending. Don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Your support makes a difference.